Hi, welcome to CineMunn Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Munn, joined tonight by Tommy Metropolis.
Glad to be here.
We got a couple topics to cover tonight, so we're just going to jump right into it. Tom, what's the first topic you have on hand?
First thing, it's kind of only been around for a couple days, but Ghost in the Shell, they announced Scarlett Johansson to play the leading role for a live adaptation of the Japanese anime manga Ghost in the Shell. And so far there hasn't been that much detail on it, but as far as like script and which story they're going with, but I mean, I'm just kind of curious how the adaptation will go for Japanese anime, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are familiar with the adaptation of Dragon Ball and how that kind of landed.
Yeah, that was bad. What do you think of her casting? Honestly, I'm fine with her casting in it. I know I've seen all over the internet a lot of uproar, a lot of buzz, and a lot of backlash, I guess you could say, of people saying, why are we casting a white American actress in a Japanese film, playing a Japanese character? Well, she's playing, I'm guessing, the android.
She's playing the cyborg,
cyborg.
Lead of the Covert Ops Task Force called Public Security Section 9.
Okay.
And what they are is they're a specialized task force compiled of military and you got your hackers and everything going against basically cyber warfare in the futuristic kind of world of Japan. And so Scarlett Johansson was confirmed for the leading role of Motoko Kusanagi, and she's the head of the Public Security Section 9. And it's one of those things that, it's an American actress playing kind of a Japanese role. I mean, not as far as the anime, though. I think she's fine for it. She's definitely the person to do it. But I'm still skeptical, just like it's a Japanese anime manga and they're going to try to make another American adaptation. My thing is like, and we've had this discussion in the past, if the story's already been established, you don't need to rewrite it. You do not need to modify it.
Not everything.
Like that.
You do have to actually modify. You do have to adjust it, because just because it works in one medium doesn't mean it's going to work in another. Like Watchmen. Mm-hmm. Certain things in the book. If you read Watchmen, if you read the book itself, 12 issues, certain things in there work on the page that, in retrospect, didn't work or weren't even used, weren't even done because the filmmakers themselves figured it's not going to work in this medium for this reason A, B, or C. So, I mean, you're never going to get a direct adaptation. The closest thing we've ever gotten to a direct adaptation of a comic book in any form, anime, comic book, graphic novel, is Sin City, which is basically frame for frame, shot for shot, line for line remake of the book. You can sit there and literally just watch it like a script.
Well, I'm not saying change the story entirely, but the thing is, there's not a lot of pop culture references in the manga or even in the anime that can really be like, oh, nobody's going to understand this. We have to redirect people into kind of the American pop culture. That's not, I mean, like I was saying earlier, this is like a futuristic world of hackers and cyber terrorists, and that's what the task force is here. They're going after cyber terrorism, so there's no room for really just kind of being like, we need to, I don't know, just put in our own material, because there's so much material to go from that I just seeing that if they throw in some extra material that they think of on the spot, it's not, it has to work with the script. And to me, the story of Ghost in the Shell is definitely one of the most memorable, popular of the anime culture.
Would you say more so than Akira?
Actually,
I think Akira has a little more clout.
Well, there's a few popular ones out there. I mean, I know you're probably going to give me for this. I haven't seen Akira yet.
I've only watched it once in my life.
I think
that was when I was on Toonami. So,
thank you, Toonami, for introducing us to a crap load of anime.
Even Akira has yet to be properly going into pre-production on a film. I know they've been talking about it for God knows how long now, at least 5-6 years, about taking that anime based off that manga. And even with Akira, it's not a direct adaptation of the manga itself. again, what works in one medium does not always work in another.
That's true.
So if you're going to adapt from manga to anime, it doesn't always work. You have to make adjustments. Therefore, going from anime to live action, you're going to see more adjustments. You're going to see more things put in, things taken out, swapped. Maybe characters are blended into one as mass appeal.
Yeah, I've noticed
because that happens even with shows like Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
with like certain characters, they take what are essentially 3 or 4 different characters who have the same basic story or the same basic work ideas and blend them into one face on the show, and it works.
Yeah,
and only the really hardcore, balls to the wall, gouge their eyes out if anything's different people are the ones that you really hear complaining the most about adaptations. I have no problem with adaptations. I understand with film, there's going to be compromise. There's going to be loss of characters. There's going to be loss of scenes, things we don't like. But sometimes they make up for it.
Right. But the other thing too, like we were talking earlier about what the Ghost in the Shell live adaptation story will be, if it's based off of one of the movies or if it's based off of the famous storyline in the anime series of the Laughing Man, and the reason why I kind of feel the Laughing Man is a potential plot to the movie. I'm not saying that's confirmed. I'm just my thoughts about it is just because the Laughing Man is like a pseudo A-class hacker. There is nobody like in the world that can beat him. And that's one of those things that in the anime, when you follow it, you realize even the public security section 9, they can't even keep up with him because he's always like, he's not just one step ahead, he's like 3 or 5 steps ahead. He's that good. And I feel like just with kind of the whole like stuff going on right now, US and cyber terrorism, things, with networking and security, I feel like that's one story arc they can go with. As far as movies, of course they can go with them, but that's just the area that I feel.
Would you really? Okay, you say it's probably the most well known or most famous story arc of the series of the anime series.
Of the anime series,
why would you go with your best gun first? With something like Ghost in the Shell, okay, with something like that, where it's going to be very new to the mass audience, not so much to the 1% nerds, fanboys who go to Comic Cons all over America. They're familiar with it already. They know it. They want to see it. They're going to complain about it, why they didn't see it. But to pull that mass audience, in order to get to that point, you need to establish the world.
You need to establish the world, which
you can't really establish. I mean, you can establish the world, but you don't want to establish it in a 20-minute period, and then let's go into this big arc that people know about, and then where do you go from there? You have to go bigger. You have to build.
Even in the series, it's not like Ghost in the Shell really had to introduce itself before they introduced the whole Laughing Man plot. Mm-hmm. Ghost in the Shell is pretty self-explanatory. I mean, it's the anime starts off with them, doing a covert mission while the Prime Minister is in the middle of discussions or a deal, trade with an ambassador. So, and in the background, Public Security Section 9 is they are taking care of like kind of the threat. Okay. So that's just what one of those things is. In the movie, I would feel like that could be like an opening sequence. It doesn't have to be too long, and it introduces the world right there. It's not going to take an hour. It's not going to take 2 hours to introduce the world. It only takes a matter of probably 15 minutes. And the Laughing Man, the reason why I feel his character, even like you said, why would you bring out your the best in the show?
Gun.
Biggest gun.
Your best arc.
Well, the other thing too is, I mean, we've previously discussed about this, is some directors, they don't know if they're going to make a sequel, which is why they pull out all the stops in the beginning. And of course,
nowadays with film though, every film pretty much that's made is made to franchise.
Yeah,
from the time they did Rise of the Planet of the Apes to Captain America to Iron Man, they knew this is not just a one shot. We are doing this because we have this in mind,
right?
And we want to get down this road. This is just the first step. so we want to go down that path. So even with films like Warcraft coming out, Assassin's Creed, they are not just simply trying to do a one shot and hey, cool, it worked. They want to say, we want this to make money. We want to see this grow.
Yeah, but I, as far as I gotta say, Warcraft and Assassin... I mean, Warcraft, you can jump right into the middle of it, but that will be very confusing. Like, as we were just previously discussing, there's so many story arcs going on in that game. But as what I'm talking about right here is just... you're talking about cyber terrorism. I mean, that could be summed up to just, like I said, one team against cyber terrorists, and that's plain and simple all it is. When you talk about Warcraft or Assassin's Creed, there's a lot of story, there's a lot of subplots, and there's a lot of story development. See, that's the part like why Assassin's Creed has gone over and over and over as it has. The story follows the assassin. Well, let me see, because actually Assassin's Creed is one of those franchises I still have not yet to play all the way through. But
what kind of gamer are you?
A little bit. I'm survival horror. I like Resident Evil, Silent Hill, The Evil Within, obviously. I've been talking to you about that. I don't know how I go from those to Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy still is cool. Same with Kingdom Hearts. But anyhow, it's, to me, Assassin's Creed's got just way too much development, and that's the part where you're looking at as of how much material do you include in a film, because Assassin's Creed, you could be like, well, we want to try to squeeze in 3 films in one movie. Now, Ghost in the Shell, they don't have to do that. There's a couple main stories they could use, and they just need to make, if they make the movie probably 2 hours, 30 minutes, they can get it in, because to me, the movies, the animated films are, they're not that long. They're like an hour 20 maybe okay. Close to that. And then the Laughing Man series, actually, if you take up all the episodes that are part of the plot, I think it's probably only like 8-9 episodes maybe, which adds up to probably about 2.5. Each episode being about 21 minutes. So, yeah, my math is probably a little off, but screw me. So it's just one of those things. I am curious to see it being done. Scarlett Johansson's definitely the right person to play it, and definitely a great casting choice. Just my thing is, I still am very skeptical because of Dragon Ball and some other adaptations I've seen based off of not just comic books or even books themselves, but I'm talking about the adaptations like we see of video games, anime. I feel like those don't get paid attention to well enough by Hollywood to say, we know how to do this right.
Because they don't know how to do it right. Why do you think we're doing Warcraft and Assassin's Creed? They're waiting. Honestly, Warcraft is the potential game changer for video game films, for things like that. Because if Warcraft does well, it doesn't have to be a big hit. It doesn't have to bring in $1 billion. If it can make its budget, can get word of mouth, can get good reviews, that will be the game changer. That will then reopen doors for things like Street Fighter, for things like Mortal Kombat, for things like Super Mario. You will see a resurgence of all that.
Yeah, no, you'll see him come back. Maybe another Super Mario Brothers.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, that's one of the things that's been developing in the past couple days. Another thing I found quite interesting was, as you mentioned, Assassin's Creed. Fox did announce Assassin's Creed for the release of December 21st, 2016. Alongside that, they did announce Planet of the Apes 3 for July 14th, 2017. And this one just makes me laugh uncontrollably, is that Fox had already announced Fantastic Four 2 for June 2nd, 2017, and the Fantastic Four reboot hasn't even been released. It hasn't been marketed. There's nothing that's come out about the movie as far as plot or anything like that.
Well, there is actually a basic summary of what they were going to do. Very, very vague.
but it's exactly vague,
well,
and it doesn't.
If I'm gonna leave you a summary, I'm not gonna tell you my entire story. Otherwise, you're not gonna go see it.
That's not necessarily true. I mean,
That's
you knew
very true.
You're telling me the original Fantastic Fours. You didn't know the story about how they got their powers.
I knew their basic story. Yes.
Okay. You knew their basic story,
yes,
but I'm just saying the adaptation of it. Like you said earlier, you like adaptations.
Yeah.
So my thing is just, I don't know, the reboot, the casting. I'm a bit kind of skeptical on it, and the fact that it was rebooted right before. What was it, like less than a month before Fox would have lost the rights?
They started. It was like stopped. Then they re-kicked up the production.
It was like February or March.
I think it was March.
Yeah. And then I think it was April 1st. If it was April 1st, Marvel Studios would have regained the rights of Fantastic Four back. And another thing too is just, I mean, they also stopped developing the Fantastic Four comics. What was it, last June or something?
I believe it was. I believe it was later than June. I think it might have been like August.
Sometime after Comic-Con.
Sometime after San Diego Comic-Con.
San Diego Comic-Con, that's right. So,
but that's not going to have any effect on it whatsoever.
Yeah.
The fact that the comic book itself has halted production with Marvel Entertainment, Marvel Publishing, it has no effect whatsoever on the film.
Yeah, and in addition to Fox's announcement of those three films, there was we talked earlier about the Channing Tatum as Gambit.
Yeah, Channing Tatum went on his Twitter account and simply tweeted out, "How do you say?" I believe it's July 17th, 2016 in Cajun.
Oh yeah.
Basically giving the release date and the fact that yes, Gambit is moving forward with him in the title role. Now, the fun of that is, in 2016, you will have 3 X-Men films coming out. Because in February, you'll have Deadpool. In June, you will have X-Men Age of Apocalypse. Mm-hmm. And then in July, you will have Gambit.
So Fox is really getting serious.
Fox has really stepped up the game with X-Men.
Yeah.
That is the one that they're doing good on. Right now with Fantastic Four, at least to me, they're kind of in that X-Men Last Stand, X-Men Origins Wolverine phase. So I'm hoping they can reemerge out of that into the realm of X-Men Days of Future Past.
Yeah, because
personally, I didn't care for First Class. That's just me. I didn't care for it.
To me, it was about getting the story back on.
It was realigning the train.
After The Last Stand, I'm pretty sure a lot of people were like, "Okay, what the hell is going on?" So it was the First Class was kind of like, we need to start over. It's not going to be the best, but we need to kind of reestablish this story and make it more general and appealing to those who, that maybe have tried to watch the old X-Men. I mean, there was one thing that even bugged me, too. It's like, okay, so in the first X-Men, Mystique tries to kill Professor Xavier. Mm-hmm. But in First Class, you find out she's, like, grew up with him, like, yeah. So, like, how did that happen? And that's where some of the, obviously, some of the stuff's weird, but,
well, that's
Days of Future Past.
The whole reason they did Days of Future Past is to reset the chronological order of all that.
Yeah.
And obviously they said some things will stay, like how Wolverine got his claws. Certain key points of the storyline will always be.
Now, doesn't another thing too, like, because in First Class they had who was playing Wolverine's brother?
It wasn't in First Class. It was in X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yes, X-Men Origins
Wolverine.
They had
Liev Schreiber was playing his brother Sabretooth.
Now, do you think they're going to bring him as Sabretooth?
No, I don't.
After
think
Days
I don't
of Future
think
Past?
They will.
No, okay.
I don't think so. Because they've already gone through 2 in the first X-Men film. They had WWE superstar Tyler Mane, who's kind of gone on to play Michael Myers in the Halloween reboots for Rob Zombie. He was the first Sabretooth in the first X-Men film, which was amazingly 15 years ago this summer. Wow. Yeah, time's flying. Okay. Yeah. So, but back to Gambit. I am actually very excited about Gambit. The only downside I see, and it's not for anyone except for the actor himself, is Taylor Kitsch, who got to play Gambit in X-Men Origins Wolverine. Poor guy did not get to revive the character. It was passed on to a new actor who not only got the character, but gets his own solo film focusing just on him.
Well, the other thing, too, to me, the reason why they probably didn't recast is, I will admit, the performance of Gambit in that was not It seemed kind of lousy. It wasn't really like
a little wedged in.
He's a little. How would you describe Gambit? He's more of a just kind of.
Gambit's almost like a gentleman thief.
Gentleman thief.
Almost.
Okay.
I mean, he's Southern charm can get you far in life apparently. So
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum, but Channing Tatum has proven he has box office appeal with the Jump Street series right now with Step Up. Now he's being looked at as Oscar bait with Foxcatcher. So this man has risen and developed himself better and better to prove that he is worthy of a leading film, and Fox is taking that gamble with him in the title role for a tentpole film.
Gamble on Gambit.
Shut up. Yes, I saw the joke was in there.
So the other and Fox also had announced along with those four now. The P.T. Barnum biopic, the greatest showman on Earth. Yeah, the greatest showman on Earth, and apparently that's going to be set date for that is later this year on Christmas or December 25th. If you don't know what day Christmas is on, so the other thing too is just with this kind of announcement. I mean, I was familiar with Assassin's Creed. I was familiar with Planet of the Apes. They're going to be releasing it again, but Fantastic Four 2 just to me was like, okay, are you serious?
What that can mean is they are liking what they're seeing so far. Obviously, production is done.
Fox is liking what they see themselves, not what the people see.
Well, we don't make the film.
We don't make the film, but that makes them sound a little egotistical, doesn't it? It's like we like our own film. Let's make another movie.
Well, think about it. Marvel. Regardless of how good Marvel is doing right now, I'm not taking that into account. Let's play devil's advocate. Marvel will look at their stuff and say, yeah, I like it so far. Let's move forward. A lot of people bash Iron Man 2 as one of their worst films. I enjoyed it personally. To me, Iron Man 2 was what you would call a necessary evil, because it was just simply looked at as an Avengers stepstone.
I mean, you say Iron Man 2. To me, I could say there was a couple Marvel movies that I felt that were rushed. I mean, like Thor and Captain America: First Avenger. Those movies, I mean, I understand the story; they're necessary, but I feel like I wanted more when I saw it. I'm not saying I wanted more, kind of in a good way. I'm saying I wanted more. Like there should have been this in the story. There should have been that. I felt like Marvel did this, like, as far as being kind of serious and still, witty, like Iron Man, still have that action sort of vibe. It's just with Captain America, it's like it felt dubbed down to be like real child friendly. And not saying that's bad either.
Well,
but it's one of those things.
You have to take into account the period it was supposed to be set in as well. It was very different. It was supposed to be not just the fact that it was set during the film itself was set during World War II, but that was the overall look of it. So it was going to reflect that kind of period film in some way.
Funhouse Mirror Christmas.
Yeah, but no. What I'm saying about Fox liking what they're seeing is they already greenlit a third Planet of the Apes film before the second one even came out.
Well,
before production was even done, when they were just in the infancy of marketing the film with teaser trailers, with posters, they had already started pre-production on the third film.
The other trend I see with this is, and this is probably one where people are going to be like, "It can't be true,"
just like that. Huh?
The Fox has done this thing where, like, we're going to renew The Simpsons, even though their ratings have dropped dramatically. I've looked up the ratings for The Simpsons over the past decade, and they dropped at least 10 to 12 million viewers within the past 10 years. And I'm kind of like, Fox, you got to let it go. You're adding insult to injury, sort of thing. So that's what, like, when I saw Fantastic Four 2 release date being announced, I was like, are you sure you want to do that after what you did with Rise of the Silver Surfer?
Wow.
You remember that, right?
I do.
The end credits scene?
Yes,
they did hint that there was going to be potentially
a
third
film. And they were all contracted for a third film. But then they scrapped the whole project. So a studio can do that.
No, a studio can do that, but at the same time, it also it puts me on that and The Simpsons just renewal of a show that's kind of it's met its age, or it's but
it's past its prime.
It's past its prime. There you go. But the fact that it just that's the thing to me. It's so the Fantastic Four, The Simpsons. I just feel like Fantastic Four 2 is just like screw it. We might not even make our budget back, and we'll still make Fantastic Four 2. And the other thing, too, is as we were actually just discussing not too long ago, is that Fantastic Four reboot was greenlit probably a month or less than 2 months before Marvel would have regained the rights. So the other thing, like you explained to me, it's like Fox is rebooting Fantastic Four just to hold on to characters. They don't care about the main Fantastic Four. They care about Galactus and was the other one?
Is part of it.
Silver Surfer, yeah.
Doctor Doom is part of it. I mean, the Mole Man is part of it.
Well, so the reason why I remember you mentioned Galactus Silver Surfer is because Silver Surfer has a big part in the Infinity Wars.
The Infinity Wars, Infinity Gauntlet War. But that's a separate issue in itself, which will honestly have no relevance since Marvel Studios does not have a Fantastic Four.
No, that's true. But at the same time, that's one, like what you said. And to me, it makes sense. Is like Fox is just rebooting it to maintain the rights. And one thing that disappointed me is that when I heard about the reboot, and I actually read into it, is they don't. Like, they're not going to be following the comics. They'll probably follow the story to a degree, but they said the characters are not going to be based off of the comic characters.
Yeah.
They said it's a comic, that's not our story. So I'm like, so wait. Your story is Fantastic Four based off of the intellectual minds, whatever, of Marvel, and you're going to take the name, but you're just going to rewrite the main characters. And I just felt like that's, again, it's one of those things where like directors or even producers, they take something and they make it their own. That's what gets me about adaptations from time to time.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do as a director. You're supposed to take it and make it your own. You're supposed to put your signature on it. There's certain things that you see in every Spielberg film. There's certain shots he does. There's certain ways he has the camera.
Right.
And that's a signature.
Yeah, it's a signature, but I really don't expect. I don't really expect much with Fantastic Four. Now, the other part of that is that XMen, when they did do First Class, like you said, First Class was not that great, but Days of Future Past was. Now, is it possible that Fantastic Four will be that good? Like, it meets the bar of XMen? Me personally, I think it could.
It could. I think any studio head, any person under that whose job it is to make money with their properties, they want it to be good. You want it to be good. No one sets out to make a bad film.
No one sets out to, and there's been plenty of bad films made already that the studios know the formula. Mm-hmm. It's just that there's a lot of, I'll go on Facebook or whatever, even in public when I have discussions with people about Fantastic Four. Nobody's desiring to see the movie. Like, it has nothing to do with the marketing or what's been released. They're rebooting a franchise that just shouldn't have been rebooted. And I see it all over the place. I don't want to see this movie. I don't want to have to pay for it. And then, actually, I think one person even said, and it's like, Fox is going to realize why people torrent movies.
Well, I think also part of that is simply the will of the fanboy. I qualify.
Strong, that's for sure.
I qualify under the definition of fanboy. Even I don't think myself as a fanboy, because I do accept change. I do accept compromises in my film adaptations of books or comics or video games that I like or love. Mm-hmm. Because you heard before our next topic, the AntMan trailer, before that trailer dropped, all you heard for months after Edgar Wright had left the film is this movie's gonna suck and it's terrible and Marvel screwed up big because they let Edgar Wright go and Edgar Wright's the best and blah 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 blah. And yes, Edgar Wright's a fine director. I enjoy his films. The Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, all fun movies to me. But if it doesn't mesh with what it's going into, it doesn't mesh.
No, I got you.
And you have to cut the strings.
You have to
That's
mesh.
Unfortunate. And if people can't accept that, that's on you. The fun of it, regardless of what I say, what you say about Fantastic Four, we're still going to see it. We're going to see it for one of two reasons. We're going to see it because we want to see if it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And we're going to see it because we're going to want to bitch about it if it's bad. and say
Curiosity,
you were right.
yeah.
Curiosity killed the cat.
I mean, I've seen bad movies. I won't say Fantastic Four is going to be the worst of the worst. I mean, like I even explained to you, I've seen a movie where a boom mic actually made it into the final cut of the film. To me, that was just... I wasn't even trying to pay attention to that, but I saw that. I was like, really?
Right.
Who in post-production said,
Okay.
What is that?
We're good.
Screw it. Let's go to the next scene. But anyhow, so you mentioned AntMan trailer.
Yes.
And...
Upon seeing the trailer, at first I want to say slightly underwhelmed, but after thinking about it and watching it 3 more times, I like it. I think it parts of it kind of made me think of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I like Paul Rudd. I think he will finally get to be the lead actor he should have been back when he was starting in the 90s. If you ever saw Clueless, he was the love interest for Alicia Silverstone in that. So... I was really excited to hear him being in that film. You have the narration of Michael Douglas as the older, semi-retired Hank Pym, bringing in this new character, Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, to be, as he says, the Ant-Man for me. He needs him to do a job for him, and he's taking this man who's basically a convict and turning him into a hero. And what they showed in the trailer was fine. They showed you the suit. They showed you your 2 leads. They showed you your villain. If you didn't see the character of Cross in there, then you missed out. It was very quick. They showed you the effects, how he will shrink down, how it looks from his perspective. You get to see the full suit up close. And one of the nice things I liked about it was around the eyes, because they had said it's going to be kind of like the Iron Man thing, where it's going to be a HUD, a heads-up perspective, where you're inside the helmet with the character. But from the outside, the lenses around the eyes are transparent. You can actually see Rudd's eyes through those lenses, which is really cool because I think it's going to lend a little more believability that he is the one inside the suit. Kind of like they did with Captain America's helmet. If you look at this helmet design done by Ryan Meinerding, they made the eye area very wide, very big, to where you can get a lot of expression out of it. And I think the gentleman who designed the Ant-Man suit, Andy Park, did the same kind of influence. In that the transparency around the eyes, where you can see the actor, you can see the character, you can see expression, you can see life in there. It's not just going to be some stuntman running around the suit, or it's not just going to be fully CGI rendering once he gets in there. It's still that person you paid to see. And I love that they didn't show me a lot of stuff. They showed you quick bits. He's riding on a bug. He's down all the way to the ground. The people can barely see him. Quick shots. And a lot of people were saying, "Where's the humor? Why isn't it's supposed to be a comedy, right? It's supposed to be funny. Where's all the humor? Where's the jokes? La da da." You're not going to show everything. If you play cards, you're not going to show your hand just yet.
Right.
So, I'm glad they showed what they showed. I like where it's going. I like that they had no references, at least not that I saw on any screens. They made no mention of the Avengers, of the Battle of New York, of I knew Howard Stark, or nothing like that. They made no ties whatsoever to the rest of the Marvel Universe. Therefore, it's not crutching on your knowledge and familiarity with the rest of the Marvel films. It's purely trying to stand on its own 2 legs.
Right.
And I think that's bold, especially for a character as ridiculously named as Ant-Man. And that was probably the only real joke in the whole trailer was, is it too late to change the name? It was funny. Yeah. It was funny. It was speaking for the audience. Yeah, we know it's ridiculous too, but we're going to go with it.
To me, that was really the only, like you mentioned, it's just funny. That's the only relief you kind of get in that trailer. I mean, you get kind of a tension watching that trailer. You're like, wow, this character is actually pretty serious. Even when he's shrunk down, you're still not really fully understanding the concept of when he's, Ant-Man in his ant form. You're not really fully understanding like what he can do, and like one thing they do give you a hint of in the trailer is like he's flying around on just a regular fly.
Look like a fly, or like some type of bug with wings.
But like, what else is he capable of? And that's kind of one thing the trailer does allude to. Mm-hmm. But it's still got that serious vibe to it and everything like that. And then at the end, like, is it too late to change the name? I mean, you kind of feel like that's going to eventually turn up somewhere. But as for the trailer, it just it kind of threw a curveball. Like, huh?
I think it's smart. I liked it. I think You got an idea of tone. I think it will be a little more serious than people think it's going to be. Yes, Paul Rudd is known for a lot of comedy films that he does, especially like with Will Ferrell, Adam McKay directing. And I think he's trying to show maybe a little more range and that he is capable of being a lead actor. And I think Marvel sees that in him, and that's why they picked him for this role. And I'm excited for it. It comes out right before my birthday, so happy birthday to me. I get to see AntMan. That'll be fun. And I can't wait to see what else they do, because obviously this will build on everything Marvel's doing. Again, Marvel always has a plan with what they're doing, so this will then lead into things like Captain America: Civil War, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, on and on till we get to Avengers: Infinity War. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure he's contracted in as Ant-Man for those two films.
I'm pretty sure all the characters are going to be coming in.
I think it will be their kind of last hurrah altogether.
Yeah.
I think by then, contracts for Downey Jr., contracts for Chris Evans,
contracts
for Chris Hemsworth, I think all their contracts will be done by then, by the time we get to that. So it will be, here's the culmination of almost 20 years' work, basically, into one giant film where we're going to blend our cosmic, our psychic, our mythology, our history, our science all together into one giant film. And make the Avengers look like an indie film, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely excited for that.
Yeah, I'm liking the way Marvel's progressing here, because I am thrilled to see, and just the anticipation of seeing all those characters come together for, like, again, it's called the Infinity Wars. You're expecting to see something epic, and I feel that Marvel can deliver that. So, I mean, just, like, again, you want to get a background on all the characters, check them all out, especially...
Don't get a background, go pick up a comic book.
Or a comic book, if...
Or,
you have a bunch of time.
My parents bought me Marvel Encyclopedia. I can go in there and find any character and
Wikipedia.
read a bio of the character and some main story arcs in there. Go for it.
A picture book?
Yes, picture book.
Picture book?
Shut up.
Okay.
All right.
There's also Wikipedia for those folks that are extremely
Yes, if you
lazy,
want just
like
what
me.
someone wrote, go to Wikipedia.
Someone or like 10 people wrote. I don't know. Wikipedia is just...
Wikipedia
it's fun to mess with, but at the same time, there's things that even... content that I follow that's been changed by... Oh, this random person. Nope.
Yeah.
Thanks. But, and then going off the movie trailers, things that kind of appeal to the audience as far as movie trailer goes. Another thing that I was catching word on is that movie goers are at a all-time 2-decade low since 1994. Hollywood Reporter reported 1.26 billion moviegoers as of 2014, which is the second lowest since 1994, with a record of 1.24 billion. And Hollywood Reporter does point out that there was kind of a lousy summer of 2014 with ticket sales and things like that. I mean, there are some movies that stood alone. They did really well on their own. I mean, like Guardians of the Galaxy and
Hunger Games, obviously. Captain America did well. Planet of the Apes did well.
There are a few that stood out, and to me, I was like, okay, maybe the numbers weren't going to be so that bad. But Hollywood Reporter pointed out 2 movies in particular that just, I mean, even me and you were kind of looking at them and we're like, this is one of the things where you've developed a story to a point you need to kind of stop while you're ahead. And the first one for me that Hollywood Reporter stated as a miss for last year is because it made $100 million less than its
predecessor.
Yeah, which was what?
Transformers: Dark of the Moon.
Yeah, Transformers: Dark of the Moon. So we're talking about Transformers: Age of Extinction, which made $100 million less, and is just a box office bomb. And it is
a national box office bomb.
Yeah.
Internationally, if you count all the dollars from international sales between America, China, all over the world, it was the #1 grossing film of the year.
Transformers.
Basically. It crossed the $1 billion mark. I mean,
really?
I mean, internationally.
Internationally,
yes.
See, here's another thing too that kind of gets me about. I'll go into the second movie in a second. Actually, the second movie is part of it, so let's go with it now. Hollywood Reporter also mentioned the second movie that did not make as much as its predecessor, which was The Amazing Spider-Man 2, was actually $60 million loss of its predecessor, and the amount of expenses that Sony has used to make these films has been, it's been a lot in general. Just for those two films, the amount Sony has spent, and of course, previously we were talking about Sony hacks and all that stuff like that, but even with the Marvel discussions, trying to help them out, things like that. And then you get numbers like The Amazing Spider-Man 2. It kind of points to the direction. It's like maybe, Amazing Spider-Man does need a bit of guidance here. Give it back to the studio, even though that's not going to happen. I mean, Sony's got plans for Sinister Six and the Venom movies. But the other thing, too, is that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a disappointment for a few. I wouldn't say probably as big as a disappointment as Spider-Man 3.
I would. I honestly...
Just as big?
I think I could stomach Spider-Man 3 more than I could Amazing Spider-Man 2.
To me, the reason why... Okay, this is where I get in a debate with the old Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans versus the new Andrew Garfield being Spider-Man, Sam Raimi being the director, but Andrew Garfield being the new actor. The new Amazing Spider-Man, everybody says it's more in line with the comics.
It's more in line with the modern comics. If you read things like Ultimate Spider-Man, and obviously, yes, they've updated the character, but Sam Raimi, out of love, because he grew up on the 60s Stan Lee Steve Ditko Spider-Man, that's the Spider-Man he portrayed in his trilogy.
And that's the other thing, too. It's like, if you have a director... See, that's where I wouldn't mind, a comic movie or a video game film being done by someone that actually is a fan of the original source material. They know what fans are going to want to see. And there are some people that want to see the modern Spider-Man kind of characterization from the comics, but it's kind of like Spider-Man's always had that image of being kind of comic relief, witty, kind of a little nerdy too, and
they tried for it. I mean, if you saw Amazing Spider-Man, the first one, they started the film out that way. He was witty, he was smart, he was smart-assy in his comments, and then about halfway through the film, all of a sudden, it just kind of dropped off the cliff and disappeared, which was disappointing because up until that point, I was kind of on board. Kind of. I honestly, personally speaking, I was not a big fan of Amazing Spider-Man nor Amazing Spider-Man 2. He's a great actor, but Andrew Garfield to me was miscast as Spider-Man. He's not my favorite. I think they should go younger. He's on the border of 30, and you're having him play a young college guy, which I'm sure he can play. Again, he's a great actor. I enjoy his work outside of Spider-Man. He's not Spider-Man to me. I've been very vocal online and with friends about who I believe Spider-Man should be played by. And after the Sony Summit later this month, if it comes down to it, then we'll talk about it on a later show.
And we'll talk about that definitely at a later time. But so those are the two movies that Hollywood Reporter is saying potentially may have been an impact at the box office. I mean, Planet of the Apes, yes, it'll pull in a fan base. It's not going to pull in a general audience. Spider-Man, because the name's already been established, it does kind of pull in the general audience. It pulls in the people that be like, oh, I don't know, I don't know Planet of the Apes or I don't know the comics or whatever like that, but it's Spider-Man. Let's go see Spider-Man. Yeah. Or even Transformers: Age of Extinction. It's like, I haven't played with Transformers. I haven't seen the cartoons, but it's Transformers, and the first movies were something. Let's go see Age of Extinction. So I would expect those films
appeal.
They always have appeal.
They always have appeal.
I thought
they have mass appeal.
It actually wasn't enough.
But I think we're now, especially with the way, at least here in California, we've seen our ticket prices go up. I don't know. I believe national average is still around $9 or $10 nationally. Mm-hmm. But for us here, we're paying a little more than that.
$12.50 or $13.50 depending on AMC or Regal.
Or Cinepolis or Reading Cinema, or wherever you go, Edwards.
Just go in the morning on Saturdays.
Just go to early show before 12. $7.
$8, $7.
$7 to $8.
That's what I've done for a couple weekends. I prefer.
But I think, and my parents do this. is they're very picky about films. They're not willing to shell out the cash unless they believe it's truly worth it. Every now and then, you want to see something just because it's a guilty pleasure film, or it just looks funny, or you just want to get away for a couple hours, out from being outside. Right. You just want to be inside a dark room with a bunch of strangers looking at a giant screen. That's cool. I love doing it. If I could do it every day of the week, I would.
I mean, yeah, there's some films I would go pay IMAX for and definitely pay the full ticket price. It's not like the fact that I'm supporting it or whatever. It's just that I want that value from it. I mean, going to the theaters and, like you said, just being in a big room and like seeing the screen, it does something to your senses where you're like, this is a bit different from watching How I Met Your Mother at home. So, you appreciate that experience, and that's what you're going to appreciate when you... And that's the same experience you're going to get when you pay the full ticket price. If you're, like I was saying earlier, is like if you're going Saturday morning, whatever like that, you're skeptical about it. You're probably not fully with the film to say, hey, I really want the full experience going to the theater. And that's what we grew up with. That's how the movie experience should be for everyone. But the problem was like ticket prices and just, yeah, those are a leading factor in why moviegoers has gone down. Is I think ticket prices is a big one. Now, Hollywood Reporter reported Age of Extinction and Amazing Spider-Man 2, but there's other things like ticket prices, concessions. I mean, AMC did one change probably back in September or October of last year, where now the fountain drinks and the icy machines are actually outside of the concession stand. So you can buy any size cup from the concession stand, and you can get refill after refill after refill. And the only sacrifice you're making is that you're going to miss probably about maybe probably a minute of the film that you haven't seen. But again, having the fountains and the icy machines outside of the concession stand is also reduced lines. And to me, I look at AMC, I don't see lines. You go to Regal or whatever, I mean, yeah, you can go on a big movie night or whatever, but in the Regal cinemas, they're still doing the classic setup. And to me,
that
Regal,
giant concession stand line.
And you
gotta move around to find your theater.
Yeah. To me, Edwards probably has better concession deals as far as food and selection. And this is where you're starting to delve into like, okay, you're starting to be like, are they going for food? Are they going for a movie or what? Yeah. But to me, it's like
full package experience.
Each theater chain is trying their own thing. Like AMC, they're going to be trying the Movie Pass out. I really think that's going to boost the amount of moviegoers. Is it? What other effects is that thing going to have? Obviously, we'll find out in time. Yeah. So that's another thing. Just 2014 was record low in 2 decades. Obviously, 2015, I'm expecting a little bit more from this year because, last year I wasn't too inclined to see too many films. I mean, even Guardians of the Galaxy. It didn't even... when I was waiting in line for the midnight release, there was one of the promoters was asking me, he's like, so what are you going to see? And I let him know, Guardians of the Galaxy. He's like, what are those guys going to see? I'm like, Guardians of the Galaxy. And like, I did, kind of with a question mark, I'm looking at him, I was like, are you playing a game or what? And actually he was like, I'm pretty sure at least 70, maybe 80% of that line, they don't even know what Guardians of the Galaxy is.
I didn't even know what Guardians of the Galaxy was. I had a vague idea, and that's about it.
Well, they're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Thanks. But... Wow. Gee, thanks, Scarlett. All right. Well, as we like to do with most of our podcasts, we like to end with a movie quote of the day, and Tommy has picked one out for tonight's show, which is a first, so this will be hilarious.
Yes. Dotson. We've got Dotson here.
Okay, folks, that was our quote of the day. If you do know the quote, please leave it in our comments section. Thank you for listening to our show, CineMunn Podcast. I'm your host, Vince Munn, joined again by Tommy Metropolis.
Thank you again.
Please click that little thumbs up button. Please subscribe to our page. If you do enjoy what we're doing, please let us know in the comments. Also follow us on Twitter at CineMunn, and we'll be back Sunday with a new show for you. Take care. Thank you.